Hi, and welcome to It's Not the End of the World, Everyday Use Cases for AI. My name is Bobby Miklausic, and I am the head of AI integration at Quite Frankly Productions in New York City. I'm also a former teacher with a pedigree in helping people use new technology and enhance their workflows with that technology. So, we have been having conversations with people from all different types of industries, trying to understand how they're using this new tech. So this episode is a recap on some of the best bits, I suppose, of that series of conversations. This episode is focused on the functions and features that you should know about when using LLMs. I hope you get something out of it. I certainly did. Enjoy. Goal, context, source, expectation.
Right.
Goal, context, source, expectation. All right, go through each of those.
Right.
So goals,
So-
obvious.
Yeah. So context. So it's helpful when you're prompting to say, "I am a lawyer working at an international law firm for a client who does." So you wouldn't think that would be relevant to the AI, but it actually is relevant to the quality of the response you get.
Right. Okay.
Sources. Okay. Limit your information to these sources. Do not, you can say, provide a link to every where you get the information. So that's basically sort of setting the framework for where it should draw its information for.
Mm-hmm.
And then expectation is more about the format, how the data should be presented in tabular form, what it should emphasize. Should it quote all the section references within the text, things like that. So it's sort of, I've found when I'm prompting, I found that because oftentimes your prompts are too short.
Right. Brilliant tip. All right.
And with that comes the point of it just not giving up in terms of the iterating. I'd go back to that point where, whenever you get a generic response, you're probably the problem because your prompting wasn't precise enough.
But don't beat yourself up too much. Mental health is important. Okay, goal, context, source, expectation. I'm going to just try and apply that now as an example. So my goal might be I'm looking for camera lenses. The context is I'm a camera operator working in New York City. The source, I want you to look at let's say Amazon, 2, 3, 4, 5 different camera stores that I know.
And then expectations, set it out in a tabular form, comparing price, accessibility, whatever. I found it a very helpful framework from a prompting perspective.
That's a great framework. I must admit that I sort of, sometimes, it's funny, I think you sort of have these frameworks that kind of help you with it, and then you sort of drop them after you sort of know how it's going to react to certain things, and you'll dip into them and dip out of them.
I have learned, and I would impart, that it's not just about the question, it's about the follow-up question, how you refine and tune and express yourself. And that I really see that with kind of, image prompting, especially with ChatGPT-5, which probably isn't the best thing for sort of image generation, but there is an art form to the prompting, is what I would say.
Yeah, just iterate, have a long conversation with the thing, keep feeding back to it and getting it and it will learn and it will become more tailored to your specific need in the situation.
Yes.
What the final result becomes the prompt.
Explain that. What do you mean? So the workflow is, so you've asked it to do a bunch of work for you, and then at the end of it, you say, write a prompt for me.
Now that I've done the work a few times, I ask it to write the prompt for me for what we have done. So now it's just a bit more automated.
So then you can return to that prompt that you've got saved and just paste it into a new chat, and then you've got it immediately. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to synthesize that just so I can recap it. So essentially, you're saying that you're working with ChatGPT to produce resources, and in that conversation, it requires directing it and nudging it in certain directions, and then you're giving it more information, and perhaps you're giving it information about your students, their ability levels, etc. And as you're going down that long thread, it's taken you a while to get to what you needed. Mm-hmm. But once you get to what you need, you then say to ChatGPT, okay, now you know what I need. Can you write me a prompt so I can just use that prompt in future? And then it will spit that out. And then you can take that prompt and put it into your notes or into a Word document or just save it somewhere. So in future, you can just come back and use that prompt. Yeah. And I imagine you could also then take that prompt and give it to other teachers and say, hey, I've discovered this prompt that works really well for X, Y, and Z.
Last year I just shared all of the prompts of everybody else, and they use them to create their resources. I mean, I'm still sort of pushing for people to do some more with it, and they will. But yeah, that's completely shareable. And I mean, I could theoretically just make, 100 worksheets for all of the topics in physics and just put them online and go, here they're made for you. One for low ability, one for middle, one for high, one for students with ADHD, one for with the EAL. I could do it in any language, and I could just literally just type, it's already done. Yeah. Like here's the booklet for you, or here's a booklet with the topic in it, whatever. It takes time to input it though.
Yeah, but Depeche, if you do that, then you've just given people a fish. But if you teach them to fish,
yes.
then they will have fish for the rest of their lives. Very often I find myself working on a script and then wondering if there's another way that I could end this script. And then I might ask for, this is my script. I'm working on this last sentence. Can you give me 10 other ways that I could end this sentence?
Yep.
You doing something similar?
That's exactly what I'm doing. I think from my experience working with ChatGPT specifically, that's a great way to work at it. Ask for 10 options, 20 options. Maybe there's one in there that you say, hey, now I kind of like this one, but it's not there. Can you give me 10 more that are a variation on that? And, keep working with it and asking for more and more ideas. And then you might find something that sparks the creative idea that you were really looking for.
Yeah, that's so crucial, isn't it? It's just give me 10 more, give me 10 like the third one that you gave. And it can do it infinitely, I suppose, can't it? So you just get so many different ideas.
And it's nice, like I can be doing this in the background while I'm also putting together a mood board on Pinterest and, finding images. And then I'll come back and say, hey, can you try that again? Or, hey, give me 20 new versions of ideas. So it's just a little assistant that I have going that's helping me generate more ideas.
She was doing a report on a COVID response for the Isle of Man, and she was in particular focused on care homes. And she said, well, let's type in, give me 10 examples of, problems that occurred with care homes during the pandemic, right? And the first 10 were pretty generic. I could describe it sort of MBA business speak is the sort of response. And then what was interesting was if you just kept saying, give me another 10, give me another 10. And we did this sort of 5 or 6 times. What was very interesting to me was if you did that with a human, they would probably by the second or third iteration, they probably start repeating themselves and just doing sort of essentially nuanced variations on what they'd originally cited as the first 10. What was interesting I found with AI was that it didn't repeat itself. And so whilst it didn't give you the answer as to, how care homes could have improved their practices in response to the pandemic, it got you out of your silo. It got you thinking about aspects of care homes that you perhaps wouldn't have focused on. It didn't give the answer, but it acted as a stimulus for a broader approach to the problem.
The other part of it was you were saying that sometimes you copy and paste, but sometimes you screenshot. I'm not sure that everybody that uses this technology knows about that particular use case. Can you just describe, in step-by-step or very clear instructions, as if this was a tutorial that you're watching on YouTube, how do you copy and paste a screenshot into ChatGPT to get the answers that you're looking for?
In general, you take screenshot, it will ask you to save the picture somewhere. But another shortcut, that fast way to just like copy paste the picture is Command-Shift-4 Control, and then drag the area you want to show. And then Command-V, paste on the chat box. That's the quick way to do.
And just to be clear, that's on the Mac, right?
Yeah.
And if you've screenshotted an email or a conversation in Slack, ChatGPT is able to read it, and then you're able to ask questions about that. That's amazing. I use that too, and I found it's a really quick and versatile way to get answers on a topic. It's so quick and so versatile that I would say that's probably the most important use or the most important tip I could give to anybody on how to use ChatGPT. Would you agree with that?
Oh, great.
If not, if it's an email, I could take a screenshot of the email, drop that in, and just, ask it, can you describe this project to me in like a short summary?
In America, you get a yearly, and when you go get your yearly, you get bloods, you get various different samples, and they give you the all clear. And then at the end of it, you get on your patient portal, you get a whole bunch of the results from all of your bloods. They're just like graphs and charts. I can see all the charts, but none of it makes any sense to me. So I took screenshots and put them into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT gave me a really clear breakdown of like all of my results, my age demographic, things I should be thinking about, what I should be watching out for. Gave me perspective on my own health in a way that I've never had before. I will say that ChatGPT, in my experience, has the best voice mode.
Right.
If you use that function.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
And I find that to be extremely helpful. I use it quite regularly.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, when I was walking down to meet you for lunch,
yeah,
we were having a problem with our microphone setup here.
Right.
And so I'm on the way down explaining what the setup is.
Yeah.
It's quite a complicated setup in this studio. We've got, as you know, 2 cameras, 2 microphones.
Yes.
Were we going to feed it through an internet portal
right,
to have it record automatically online, or we're going to feed it to the cameras? So I'm explaining all of this to ChatGPT via speech.
Yeah.
And we were having a problem where it's called like noise bleed.
Right.
The guest's voice was picking up on my microphone,
right,
and vice versa.
Got it.
I didn't actually know that terminology.
Right.
And it just does the most amazing job of synthesizing all of that,
right,
and then repeating back to me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Bobby, the common problem.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what that problem is. I'll tell you what the answer is, and you can use that to think it through.
Right.
I mean, I find that to be one of the most amazing features of the whole.
Yes.
The whole thing. I don't know how much you're using. I mean, I'm using it at a barbecue at an Airbnb. I don't know how to turn it on, and there are instructions, and the instructions are kind of withered.
Yeah.
Because of the outdoor weather, and I turn on advanced voice mode, point it at the instructions, and it is able to fill in the withered bits.
I was in southern Germany with some, I was at this sort of health clinic with some friends, and I was sort of we went one day, we had an afternoon to go, so we went to sort of a monastery in southern Germany, and everything's in sort of heavy, sort of gothic, sort of engravings, and I'm sort of scanning these engravings with AI and getting like perfect English translations. I mean, that's beyond anything that I've ever done before. And, translating sort of Latin passages, and it sort of made the experience, the kind of interactivity experience of sort of going to what traditionally I would have thought was quite a sort of boring kind of environment, actually sort of super fun and super engaging, and, allowed me to sort of think in different ways. And that was a brilliant use of it. Also, I drive quite a lot around the UK. In the UK, I'm sort of shuttling up and down the M4 quite a lot, so using the sort of the voice commands as I'm sort of driving along is definitely a way I'm sort of using AI.
If you have thousands of claims being filed against you, and you need to quickly review them, summarize them, work out what the arguments are on each claim, and address them, we use Google Notebook LLM. If you have previous negotiations where the similar points have come up, issues have been raised by the other side, you can upload. You'll have a due diligence room full of thousands and thousands of documents. And what we've developed is standardized prompting for review of those documents to very quickly identify sort of red flag issues.
Give me some more clarity here. So a room full of documents, give me a sense of the scale of that, what a room full of documents might look like.
I think that our record was, it's tens of thousands of pages of documentation that you need to summarize very quickly.
And you can put that into, which one is it, Notebook LM? Is that what that all goes into?
And we can just summarize, we can produce due diligence reports very quickly based on that. And again, they need to be verified, but what's quite helpful, it will identify issues that need to be raised very early on. Obviously, you have to conduct your due diligence, with that in mind, but if there's some obvious red flag issues, it can help you from a speed perspective identify red flag issues very quickly.
So they've got this one tool where you can upload a document and it'll ask you if it wants you to generate an audio overview. I don't know if you've heard of, I think they've integrated a different piece of software that they built called Notebook LM, if I'm not mistaken. But basically, it creates a podcast. of whatever the material is. So it has this kind of enthusiastic, generic male American voice and this equally enthusiastic, generic female American voice. And the male is the host and the female is sort of the associate presenter. And they take the information and then they start kind of, it's very podcast-like. So, let's say if Le Creuset is, you've got a brief from Le Creuset and you've put it into Gemini, it digests that brief and then it presents it back to you in like a 5-minute podcast, and it'll open with the guy saying something to the effect of, so it's Le Creuset's 150-year anniversary, and this seems like a really swell time. And then the woman will say something to the effect of, yeah, and can you believe that they are launching a 2-minute animation to celebrate? And it goes on like that. I found it really effective when I was looking at a recent brief, because I read the brief, as you do, which is obviously one, a visual stimulus, but I'm very much an audio learner. And so I'm able to read it and then go for a walk while listening to the podcast about the same brief, and then come back and then read it again and double check that what I heard in the podcast is accurate. And sure enough, I was picking up different things from the podcast versus the script.
One hack, I don't know if you've I imagine lots of people do this, but one thing I've started doing quite a bit is playing the AIs against each other. So I will take output from, say, ChatGPT, and I'll put it into Grok or Gemini or Perplexity, and I'll say, ChatGPT says this. Can you, what do you think about that? Essentially, and then let them compete over those facts. And a lot of times they're pretty good at rooting out, things it thinks that the other AI did wrong.
That is good.
And it's not always right about it either, but you play them off against each other a couple times. You can even go back to the other one, go back to ChatGPT and say, hey, Gemini says you're hallucinating this, and let them kind of argue.
That's interesting. I often like compare answers, but I've never actually directly given that sort of context to the model.
You can take a photo. ChatGPT allows you to upload photos. You can take a photo of the content of your fridge, and it can tell you exactly what you've got and how much of it, and then come up with a recipe idea.
My daughter wanted to dye her hair pink, so we were at the Gold Valley, which is our Asian supermarket out in New Jersey, and I picked up a Korean hair dye, and then I realized I couldn't read the instructions, so I just took a quick photo of that, put it in, and then it told me how to do it without burning her head off. So that was great.
The deep research function, when we're looking at things like trends, brand visibility, leadership visibility, Gen Z and its relationship with our products, and things like that.
Give me a sense of that. So deep research, again, for the listeners, is a button that you press on ChatGPT. It's called deep research. I think it's called deep research on Gemini as well, and I'm not sure what it is on Claude, but it's a button that you press. When you press that, an AI agent goes out onto the web and conducts thorough research. It can take anywhere from 20 minutes plus. And then it comes back with a really well-written report on that particular subject with source links, etc. What does deep research do for you? And how is it better than what you would have done before?
It's better. Well, it's better because it feels more, truly it does feel more comprehensive, but it gives us an opportunity to cast a wide net for this kind of research, to fully understand the particular issue that we're asking about.
What would you have done before?
Working with agency partners, working with subject matter experts, our partnership with various lobbying organizations, our partnerships with various responsible drinking organizations.
Do you still have those partnerships?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, nothing has been done yet to fully insulate Diageo. Oh, we're just going to rely on AI. But
so it doesn't replace those relationships.
No, not at all. But it empowers us to know more, to know more comprehensively, to know a broader picture, a better picture.
So then I'm guessing then, because it doesn't replace those relationships you just described. So I'm imagining that correct me if I'm wrong, but either you didn't have anything you could do. If you were just wondering what are trends with Gen Z at the moment, either you had to just Google and look for an article that you trusted, and which is quite limited, or several Googles, or nothing at all.
Right. Or these agency partners that we work with who, give us these reports, these white papers,
so
this
bridges that gap.
Oh, absolutely.
This is like, you were doing this before. That is actually quite a lot of money you need to spend to do that.
Exactly.
Now you can do a deep research with somewhere in the middle.
And it empowers us to be more knowledgeable ourselves so that we can ask the right questions of these partner agencies, of these partner organizations, so that we know we become more literate, we become more empowered to drive the conversation, to participate in the conversation.
Yeah, that's great. That's a really positive spin on what is a apocalyptic technology.
Sure.
It's going to kill us all. All right.
Back in the day before we had image generators, I would, be sketching all the time, rough sketches, finding stock imagery, inspiration imagery that will spark my ideas. I'm still doing that, but now I can kind of speed up that process and lean on an image generator to take some of the ideas I had and see what they would look like super quickly. Something that I find incredibly useful when using large language models as well as image generators and all of these new AI programs that we're seeing come out is the thing called daisy chaining, which is connecting together multiple programs to get what you have in your vision. So maybe it's, starting in ChatGPT to have it write a prompt, and then going to Midjourney to generate that prompt and make it come to life, and then bringing it back into Photoshop to give it the design tweaks necessary, and then bringing that into After Effects to break things down and animate them. It's this connecting of all these different programs that can really elevate the usage of AI.
Thank you for joining us on It's Not the End of the World, everyday use cases for AI. We'll see you next time, unless it really is the end of the world.